If Shiva were a story, talk about it as if we were narrating to a 5-year-old, how would we explain the story of Shiva?
So if you look at Shiva from a warrior point of view, he's a Nagas. So for Shiva, from them is the warrior journey. When I look at Shiva, Shiva for me is pervading everywhere. If you meet other sadhaks who I know, for Shiva from them is a tantric god which will help them.
A student of science, Bhavesh Bhimnatani's life took a complete U-turn when he decided to listen to the calling of spirituality. From making people more aware about yoga to making mantras and spiritual learnings accessible for the youth, he aims to bring a shift in people's mindset. An ardent believer of Lord Shiva, Bhavesh believes he's just an instrument in Lord Shiva's hands. If you've been struggling or are feeling lost, this episode is definitely for you. Welcome to the Humans of Bombay show, Bhavesh. So excited to have you in the studio. Can't believe that our timings matched and you were here from Rishikesh. And I was mentioning before that this is a full vested interest that I want to do this episode with you because I have so many questions.
Go on. Thank you, Karishma, for having me. I'm ready.
So Bhavesh, in one of your interviews, you said that the more you start walking on the spiritual path, the more you realize that you don't have control. There's no control over external circumstances. Would you like to elaborate on that with respect to your life maybe or your spiritual journey so far?
See, the fact is, when the calling happens, nothing is in your hands. The beauty is that the so-called identity is always fighting for something. We want everything in control. And it should be the way I want. The moment you realize that you're losing the grip, then comes anger and everything. But when you start walking on the path, you realize that everything is taken care. That is the beauty of life, Everything, and it unfolds when the time is right. So the more you surrender and the more you let go of the so-called ego, everything will start beautifully blossoming, and that is where magic happens.
A lot of people have a very difficult time surrendering. So what would you define that surrender aspect, and how would you recommend more people do it or try it?
This is something very beautiful, and everyone comes to a point where either if you're a bhakta, you'll come into bhakti, that is surrender, or if you're a jnani, you'll come into acceptance. The thing is, what can we surrender? Nothing is in your hands. You can only surrender your ego. That is the fight. I think people think spiritual path is leaving the house and, wearing orange clothes and running away from family. No. The path is living in this duality and being unaffected. So you can surrender your ego, and if you're a jnani, you can surrender and accept the present situation. Path of evolution is not insta. We call it the bed of thorns, not roses. You're fighting constantly against only one thing, that is your ego.
So what is the ego?
Yeah, very good question, but I have a very practical, stupid answer for our generation. It should not be ego, it should be I-ego. When your identity goes, that's it. And what is this identity? Which is holding you to this limited understanding of the body, intellect, and the mind. That is I-ego. That when things are going your way, you take complete credit. Oh, maine ye kiya, I'm so proud. If anything just goes off your way, oh, God is responsible, neighbors are responsible. That is the problem our generation has.
You obviously were not born this way. You've led a seemingly normal life. You've studied, done your BSc, and today I find you here. And how is that? How did your tryst with spirituality happen?
I think in this life I've done nothing. I'm just eating, traveling, and meeting people. But I think it's all the past sanskaras that has come. So when you evolve on the path, and life is very beautiful, If you just surrender like Gangama, you'll keep on flowing. If there's a stone, Gangama will go over it, you'll start flowing. Unless you associate with that stone. So life goes on, and when you evolve, of course, I never knew what is happening, but the more knowledge is coming, and of course, I only have surrendered completely to Shiva and Shakti, and of course, my Guru. So I think when that happens, then automatically, even the unknown is known with time.
And how did your rendezvous with Shiva happen?
I think he was always there. But people have a concept that Shiva is sitting in the mountains, and I think this is what projection is there within Indians also. Of course, he is in the form, but highest Shiva is pure consciousness. That knowledge should come. That is what we call Gyan. That without that knowledge, any worship is going to give you misery and duality. But with that worship, that the same Shiva is in Krishna and Krishna and Ganesha all are one, then you're good to go. I think he is always there. Because of him, I'm here. Otherwise, nothing would be possible. And when you start worshipping Shiva, you also worship Shakti with time. They go hand in hand.
When people say, come up with the question of who is Shiva or
Yeah.
what is Shiva, of course, you mentioned the term consciousness
Yep.
so many times. What other characteristics do you think he represents?
You know, the Rishis have given beautifully how he looks.
Yeah.
The form that we look, in fact, he's black, he's space, and he has different forms. In any form, he is in every form. He is everywhere, no?
Let's start from the beginning or the basics of Shiva. What would you say? Can you talk to me about this god? Like, can you talk to me about his learnings?
You know, he is very raw. And the beauty is to worship Shiva, there are no rules and regulations. Like when you worship other deities, there are certain rules, But Shiva is so raw. In fact, they call him Bholenath, they call him Neelkant, they call him Chandrasekhara, they call him Neelkanta or Trinetra. He is in fact, you know, the outcast of the society, he is the one who's holding them. So the form of Shiva is such a beautiful form. Even if you just call out Shiva, he will come to your rescue. But at the same time, if you read in the Puranic stories, he also gets very angry because the anger is your ego. It is nothing else. It's a wrong misconception that young generation, especially people, when we also teach them, they'll, oh, Shiva is always angry, killing people, cursing people, nothing like this. It is your ego which is coming out. And the more sadhana you do, the more ego will come out. Because that is what cleansing is about. Sadhana is all about.
So, if you could, and you can take your time with this, you can make it as short or long. What is the story of Shiva?
You know, there's a very beautiful story in the Puran which gets the actual essence of Shiva out. And you're touching into Puranic stories, so something very beautiful. Before the creation was created and before Brahma also gave everything or Vishnu also gave everything, Shiva was given in the form of a white beam light. And those are the 12 Jyotirlings. So he is in the form of pure consciousness. But later, that consciousness was given in different forms. Or Rudra, even if you read the Rig Veda, he is given in the form of Rudra. And he was so ferocious and so full of energy that the world couldn't sustain. That Shiv has taken the form of Sadashiv or different forms of Shiv. Now, all these aspirations of Shiv that you're talking do exist in the Purana and the Vedas, like the Trishul, or like the Damru of Shiv, or Shiva sitting in Kailash, or you know, the tiger skin. All these beautiful esoteric meanings are given so beautifully that we still can't comprehend what Shiva is. For example, if you read the Purana and try to decode the 3 eyes of Shiva.
Yeah.
And people talk about, okay, oh, there are 3 eyes, 3 eyes, 3 eyes. But actually, the 3 eyes are the third eye chakra.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when the third eye chakra opens, you become a Jivan Mukta. So Shiva is also Jivan Mukti. That means when you do sadhana on Shiva, your third eye chakra will open. Now, what open means nowadays when I see people, oh, third eye chakra is opening, I'll get visions, I'll get oracles. No. When your third eye chakra opens, you become a Jivan Mukta. This is what the great Ramana Maharishi Adi Shankaracharya has also said. That means you are a free bird. You have burnt away all your karma. So Shiva has a certain bija mantras associated with every part. I'm going into way detail, but I think this is just coming out. So when you chant Om Namah Shivaya, when you chant the Triambakam mantra, or when you chant the Rudri, these are certain elements which associate with the forms of Shiva. And the more you chant and the more you do a sadhana, you will get features of Shiva. That is where the actual form of Shiva is seen. But in reality, again, any form will bind you. Because I think that knowledge of form to formless is very important. I don't know why, but I'm trying to grind it all the time because people think that, you know, one day Shiva will come to save me and everything will be okay. He is within you, guiding you all the time. Like I have met few people who also go in deep state of meditation who have defined Shiva beautifully, drawn Shiva in a form, and whatever they have drawn is there mentioned in the Ved and the Puran. So the more sadhana you do, the form will come to you. Also, what the forms you're talking, Shiva is in many multiple forms. Many multiple forms. But the most common form that we know is the Sadashiv sitting nicely. But I think he has many forms.
Yeah. If Shiva were a story, I understand story in terms of eras or when the world came into being. That's a very fast stretch of time. But if we were to encapsulate it into characters and talk about it as if we were narrating to a 5-year-old, how would we explain the story of Shiva?
A story of Shiva is that light coming in the form. So see, if you're talking from a pictorial story point of view, if you read the Vedas, you will realize that when you open Vedas, they call him the Rudra. He's ferocious in the story. And he's out of control, and from that Rudra comes the entire creation. And very, very ferocious. And of course, when you talk about Shakti, how Shiv changes with time. Now, the change of Shiva is just the aspect of human life. How a small child is growing. And with every aspect, there are a few images of Shiva as a small baby also, which people talk about. So your human journey is how Shiva evolves. So if you look at Shiva from a warrior point of view, he's a Nagas. Have you heard about the Naga Babas? Yeah. Which were fighting at Varanasi, and you might be knowing the back end.
Yeah.
So for Shiva, from them is the warrior journey. When I look at Shiva, Shiva for me is pervading everywhere. If you meet other sadhaks who I know, for Shiva from them is a tantric god which will help them. So the form of Shiva changes, and that is the beauty of Sanatana Dharma. We can't have one form.
Okay, so if I were to categorize things that we could learn from Shiva, what would be
This is a very interesting question. What will you take away from Shiva's teaching? That he exists in everything. Even in the dark, even in the dead bodies, even in the temples. Secondly, if you surrender, then only you realize who Shiva is. And thirdly, always, for practical people, the third answer is for us, always keep your ego in check. And you can only keep your ego in check when you are doing some kind of spiritual practice. I'm not talking about you leave your family, go away. I'm talking about people who are dealing in day-to-day life. For example, I'm going to my office, things are not going well, I'm looking after my family doing. For that, you need to understand that there's a greater energy that is operating. And you can call it Shiva, call it anything. But it sounds very easy. It is very, very difficult.
Right.
Very difficult to let go of and to, we can't let go of anything, especially our emotions. Material, okay, so at a certain point you'll be okay, but emotions are very difficult.
Have you had any such experiences that you can say for sure is a guidance, or for sure is something that you've been led to?
Every individual is unique. If you ask any enlightened being, how did they get enlightened, they will have no answer. Because in Tantra it is said, if you do your sadhana, we may have spiritual experiences similar till this point. But the journey from third eye till crown is unknown. It is just like your DNA strand or your nails. Very unique. So we may discuss and we may have few spiritual experiences which are very similar. But that point when the game changes from here till here. And that is unique for everyone. That is the beauty. There is no specific way to reach God. Every way is unique and every way is diverse. And it is said when you read text and all, it is said that never share your spiritual experiences with anyone. It is meant only for you, not for others. Because people will start calling you mad. Because every reality is different, no? There's a beautiful story in the Upanishad. There's this very smart disciple of a guru. He goes to the guru and tells me, show me God, show me God. So the disciple says that God is everywhere. The guru says the disciple, God is everywhere. So the disciple says, no. You always tell me that God is everywhere. In nothing there is God, show me. So the disciple is always over smart people like us. The guru is enlightened, of course. So he says, come, I'll take you for a nice ride. They go, they sit under a tree. And then the guru tells now, have you seen the banyan tree? When it grows, it touches the roots and another tree will come. Big, massive tree. So the guru says, now you get me the seed of the tree. The guru, so disciple goes running and looking here and there, he gets the seed of the tree. And then the guru says, okay, this is the seed. Now he said, from this small seed has come this tree. So the disciple says, no, but even this has a form. And you're talking that Shiva is in formless and everything. So the guru smiles and says, now remove the layer So, generally a seed has 3 layers. So, when he removes the first layer, he sees the second layer. Again, very, very happy. Then, when he removes the third layer, he sees only space. So, Guru smiles and tells him, from this nothing has come everything. So, when you say nothing, even in the nothing, there is God. And the disciple is just quiet. Now, the Guru tells the disciple, put the seed together. He failed. God is in everything. So form that form to formless, and that is where the disciple experiences bliss. So we can't comprehend intellectually spiritual experiences, and one should not. You're diluting the experience. It is meant for you, only for you.
We have this section of questions. It's called Ask a Yogi. So we just some questions that we thought could be interesting for people to relate to, and your perspective could be interesting. You've often spoken about how one must feel emotions, be it happy or sad, and then let them go.
Yeah.
How and why must one do this?
Okay. First thing is, there are 2 aspects. If you're having emotions, you can't let it go for a beginner. You will go through it.
Yeah, you have to.
You can't say like, okay, for example, I'm telling you meditate, but you don't know what meditation is. So if you're going through an emotion, you have to go through it. But the point is, don't get attached to it. Don't sulk over it and don't hold on to it. Then you're destroyed because that emotion has become past. Secondly, if you're evolved, then remember that all these are passing clouds over the sky. Just watch it. But we are in the first stage. So experience the emotion, go through it. And after a while, you realize that, imagine like you have some childhood emotions. Now you don't even remember. Like 3 months ago, you're holding on to something and now slowly it's fading away.
How can we strike a balance between material and spiritual pursuits without neglecting one or the other?
Nothing. Wherever you're placed, give your best. Don't make it secular, spiritual, material. Wherever you're placed, give your best and leave it. Rest is meant. What is meant will come to you, but you have to give your best. I'm sitting here that don't know, wow, Karishma is going to call me automatically. She will come flying and everything. No, I have to give my best. Efforts are attractive. You have to give your efforts.
Yeah.
Then that time, just keep on giving. You will get what you deserve. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah. You can't arrive from your karma. But giving your best is in your hands.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about, talk about Shiva and Parvati. Let's talk a little bit about their relationship and what we can learn, perhaps.
Very beautiful saying we have that without Shiv, there is no Shakti. And without Shakti, there is no Shiv. The cosmic union is very, very important. So if you realize that, Shiva is such a character in stories that he's always meditating. Just sitting, meditating. And people think he's not doing anything. He's doing a lot of things, in fact. And Parvati is something which is always constantly moving. She's Shakti, creative power. That feminine energy which is very, very important. And she comes out in different forms. As Kali, as Parvati, as Durga. All the creative aspects of nature is, we call her Maya also. Because she's constantly changing. And Maya is operative only because of Shiva. Even when you see that Maya is out of control, Shiva is always there. So the masculine and feminine aspects are very important. If you read the Shiv Purana or if you understand Tantra text, they always talk that without that form of Shakti, Shiva can't operate. And even in stories, she is doing everything wrong. Things are not going good. She is entangled in Maya and ego because she herself is that, but Shiv is always there. So that defines the relation of a sadhak with the Supreme and many, many different aspects.
Can the 4 ashrams of life still be followed in today's world, and how?
We are actually.
First, if you can tell us what the 4 ashrams are. It's better that you
For
So I'm scared I'll mispronounce something there.
No, we have, first before going to the ashram, we have the 4 goals of life.
Yeah.
And this is something very, very important that everyone should know. We have dharma, artha, kama, moksha. Dharma is where you live righteously. Artha is desire for material. Kama is desire for pleasure. And the last one is moksha. People talk about moksha, but let's keep moksha away. Let's simply call it to end the vicious cycle of birth and death. Moksha doesn't mean that I leave my body now. It's a different beautiful stages of moksha also. Now, something very interesting which fascinated me actually on the path is like when I read and came across dharma, artha, kama, moksha. I think these enlightened beings were super practical. They realized that humans need it and you can't run away from money. You can't run away from emotions. But Dharma, Artha, Kama, Moksha. They have purposely placed it in such a way that Artha and Kama comes in between Dharma and Moksha. So, if you have desire for material, do it keeping your Dharma in mind. And your end goal of life is Moksha. If you have emotional needs, sexual needs, or whatever needs, do it keeping Dharma in mind, and your end goal is Moksha. But the problem is we are living only in these two. We are only attached to material. We are only attached to sexual desires, emotional desires, mental desires. And the problem is we are never happy. But the rishis have beautifully given, like having a sandwich, 2 breads and entire. So entire whatever is happening in between is happening. But remember Dharma and Artha, Dharma and Moksha. That is very, very important. Basis on this, they gave us the 4 ashram. Brahmacharya ashram, Grahastha ashram, Vanprastha ashram, and Sannyas ashram. The first is Brahmacharya ashram, where now we don't follow it. I'll explain what technically is written and then in modern terms. Technically, the disciple or the student used to live under the guru. And that time the gurus were so great, they never expected anything. Like now the guru expects a lot of things in return. Like maybe your parents or maybe a guru or teacher or anyone. But the guru just expected knowledge. That I give the knowledge, and that is the time from a certain age the disciple used to live. That was the Brahmacharya ashram.
Yeah.
All the knowledge was given. That do this, you have to grow up. The end goal of life is moksha. Don't run away. Depending upon your behavior, then used to come the life of a householder. In that life of householder, depending upon your sabhava, if you wanted to have a household family, live. If you don't want to live, you can move to the next stage also. That is sannyas. So our education system has ruined everything, to be honest. I'm not blaming them, but even when we were growing up, it has been ruined very badly. But the ashramas were very, very clear. Gain the knowledge. If you have desires to live in the family, live in the family. If you don't have desire, you can move ahead. But the end goal of life is moksha. I will practically give you what happens. Now, suppose me, I have gained education. Now, not happening in my case, just an example. And my family is expecting now. Mera beta kamayega. He will look after us. Till he die, he will satisfy all our needs. If it is not satisfied, he can't do anything that he wants. And our generation is getting frustrated. But in olden days, that knowledge was given. And then eventually, our parents also can't let go of things. But in olden days, slowly the parents used to let go. And they used to move to the sannyas ashram, where they used to focus on their spiritual growth. But now it is not like this.
What are your closing thoughts? I'll leave it open to you. I usually ask a very pointed question, but I have no questions. I'll just leave it up to you.
My closing thoughts are, from a very practical point of view, be very careful with your words. Don't judge anyone, even in your mind. And remember that everything comes with an expiry date. From a sadhana point of view, you have to put efforts for evolution. It is not going to come to you. And you know what the war, we call it the spiritual war. The spiritual war is that every step that you are evolving, you are placed into a situation which is going to break you. And I think that is beautiful, because the more you're breaking down, the more you're shining. So never give up.
Wow.
Never give up. At times you're going to break up on the journey completely, but have faith, because once when Shiva will hold you, nothing can break you. But that breaking is very required.
Thank you so much.
Thank
you
you.
for joining us. And
Thank you so much.
I've learned a lot. Thank you for being the best community, and we'll see you in the next one.